And there it goes. All
All
right.
right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely honored and have the pleasure of getting to talk with Kyle today of Grail Technologies. Kyle, welcome to my channel, my friend. This is going to be the first boot talk I've done in about probably about 3 months. So welcome to the channel, my friend.
Yes. Cheers, Dale. The
Mhm.
pleasure is all mine. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah. So just a little bit of background. So Wyatt connected us. Wyatt of Grant Stuff.
Yes. I love this framed image you have of him. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you need one too. Actually, you have enough
I'm
room.
gonna get one.
Yeah, yeah. You have enough room behind you. I feel like you could do like a poster, actually. That's probably be more
Like a
appropriate.
shrine
Yeah,
dedicated to Wyatt. Yeah, that would be good.
yes. Absolutely. I think it would be
He
appropriate.
deserves it. Absolutely.
Yes. So, all right. So you are somewhat of an entrepreneur. You worked for Amazon for a while, and you're somewhat of a you're forming a website to help people with the biggest problem known to our community, anyways, which is the sizing question. So I'm very excited to be talking to you today and to be sort of exploring and getting to understand this site that you're building. And so why don't you start out, kind of give us a rundown of like who you are and what you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to start, the first thing is I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5", 240 pounds. And there's just always been this challenge in the background when you go shopping, whether it be in a store or online, to find stuff that fits. And as shoes are no exception. If nothing else, maybe even the most challenging thing that you wear to find that fits correctly. So that's sort of where this all started. And I went to work for a small startup here in Portland, Oregon, which is where I'm based. And that startup was called Elemental Technologies, and they did video processing stuff. And while the video processing wasn't necessarily my bag, I was really into the startup culture and getting to do lots of different things that you're not necessarily qualified for, learning a ton in a very short amount of time. And this sort of collegial theme that runs throughout a startup is really cool, and you meet some interesting people. And this Goodyear Welted community has been no exception. Just fantastic people all the way around. So I did that for about 8 years, and this small startup grew, and we were acquired by Amazon Web Services. And at that point in time, I sort of knew I was ready to move on and do something else. I appreciate the title of entrepreneur, but it was just sort of this itch, right, to get out there and try and change some sort of issue that everyone can really identify with. And for me personally, that just happened to be fit. And I've always had this passion for clothing, shoes, fashion, the whole thing. So I knew I wanted to get involved in the industry somehow, but I wasn't quite sure. And when I left Amazon back in 2019, I sort of decided to just dive in head first. And I said, I'm going to get involved in this industry somehow. Actually, I initially started thinking like, I'm going to make my own clothes and do this all by hand. And I backpedaled pretty quick on that because I was in way over my head. As I'm sure, many of your listeners know, it's no small feat to be able to start your own clothing line or footwear line. And decided, okay, so let me take what I've sort of learned at Amazon, because I was sort of on the business development, product marketing side of the house, and wanted to use what I'd learned and apply it to clothing. So, I took a good hard look at what all the options were, and I knew that there were a few solutions out there that exist today that have tried to address this fit problem. And I saw an opportunity, I guess, in shoes specifically, because the third most returned item in all of e-commerce, which is just nuts. And there's obviously a lot of different sizes to choose from, and those nominal sizes vary from brand to brand. So it's tough to get your foot into the right fitting shoe. And this is all sort of, I guess, exacerbated by COVID and being forced to shop online and trying to figure out, like, how do I do this without trying the shoe on, short of buying 3 pair and returning whatever doesn't fit. right? So we went down this path of shoes, and that sort of got us where we are today, which is, I guess you could call it something like of a two-sided marketplace, right? Where you were serving both users and consumers and brands. So basically the way that it works is we take in your shoe inventory, right? And ask you to tell us about the styles you're wearing, the sizes you wear, how that shoe specifically fits you. And then you can throw in some pictures, maybe a little story about that shoe, a personal touch. But we want to collect as much info about what you're wearing, footwear wise, as possible. And then we use that aggregate data to sort of drive this fit algorithm, we call it, that helps you get a fit recommendation for all of the various brands that we have on the other end, right? And we're exclusively focused on, I'm calling it Goodyear welted shoes. I don't know if there's a better name for that, but you know, I've always had a special passion for this space, and I just love how the focus is on quality and construction and buying things that are going to last you a long time and get better as they get older. I think that's really, really cool. So that's sort of at a really high level what Grail is all about. And then, you know, the other thing is this community piece, right? And getting people together who really share like common characteristics, whether it be the shoes that they're interested in buying, so that could be brands or styles, grouping people together by, you know, sizes. So if you've got big feet, for example, it's really, really hard to find shoes when you're shopping online. But if you're connected with this network of other individuals who sort of share the same issue, that makes it much easier to go out and find that thing that you're looking for.
Totally. So true. So true. And I think that's just such a phenomenal idea. And honestly, long overdue. I'm surprised, you know, nobody's done this sooner. So I'm very excited that you're doing this actually, because, you know, one of the things, the most common thing that I get in my DMs on Instagram and on my YouTube channel is, how's this size? How's this compared to this brand? If I wear this in the Red Wing Iron Ranger, what do I wear in this brand? And so I started doing sizing videos, and I need to do more because, in fact, there's so many sizing videos I still haven't done. But when I do these sizing videos, I'm always a little bit nervous. Like, I hope I'm putting out the right information. I'm just basing this off of my own anecdotal, personal, subjective experience. So, you know, I don't know that my advice always translates to everybody. So I think that by getting this aggregate communal knowledge base into one spot, we can really get really useful, accurate sizing information. So for example, yeah, like I've done a Parkhurst sizing video, I've done some Truman sizing videos, and yeah, it puts people's mind at ease because you get to see the boot next to the Alden Indy, you get to learn what size it is, and then I give a little bit of sizing recommendations. But ultimately, you know, that's a lot of responsibility, I feel like, for me to shoulder. So I think by you doing this really sort of alleviates a lot of people out there, not just somebody like me who is like an independent blogger, but other people, shop owners, you know, people that sell Nick's boots, people that sell Whites, people that sell Viberg, Alden. Because I'll tell you what, like, there's so many brands out there, and I don't have the time or the space or the resources to acquire all this and do this myself. So.
Well, you're certainly doing your part, Dale, with 75 pairs of shoes.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
I gotta say, like, you're uniquely qualified actually to be answering these sorts of questions, I feel. You know, it's rare that you've got someone with as much experience as you have across all these brands. So, you know, when you get someone like you who's really, really interested in honestly helping out this Goodyear welted community, like, that's invaluable. And to your point, this is how people are solving the problem today, right? When you go and you find a brand for the first time, you go on Instagram or your friend tells you about it, and then you pop over to their site and you get all the info that you might need about the shoe itself, you know, leather, sole, hardware, makeup, whatever. And then you go off to Stitch Down, or you go to your YouTube channel or Discord or Reddit or Style Forum, and you do as much digging as you can to figure out, like, all right, if I'm going to drop $500 on this pair of shoes, I I better be damn sure I know what the size is, or at least get as much information as I can, right? But of course, being that all this information is like somewhat ephemeral, because if you miss the update in a chat or you're not searching the right term, like you're not going to find that info, right? So it's hard to go back historically and aggregate all that good stuff that's going to help you out. So that's sort of what we're trying to accomplish here, is be that repository, that one-stop shop for just getting all the info that you need to go out and make the right decision.
Totally. And ephemeral is a good word because there is a timeliness to this information. You know what I mean? And my best resource getting into all this back in 2014 was the style forum. They had an Alden men's style forum page, and it's just thousands of pages long. And there's so much key information that just gets dropped on, like, so like we might be up to, I don't know, 10,000 different pages of information now. And my answer was on page 393. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Google isn't going to show me all the relevant, like maybe, Google might show me some results of the exact specific answer I'm looking for, like Alden tongue slip, like it'll give me a few pages, but it's not going to give me everything. And the key piece of information might have been lost, beneath pages and pages of search results. So I think that by doing this, there's sort of an infinite timeliness to it. It doesn't matter when you come to your site. It could be 3 years from now. It could be today. It could be 10 years from now. You're still going to get that accurate information, and it is not going to be difficult to find, because finding the information in and of itself is such a struggle. So I think it's going to be really helpful. And I clicked around on it last night, and yeah, I put in my Brannick, and it's amazing. Like I went to some boot brands that I've never known, and it gave me a sizing recommendation. And and I think the more people that participate, the better it will become. So and you said you have several thousand people on there already, or entries at least.
Yeah, we're I think just shy of about 1,200 entries, shoe reviews we call them at this stage. So we launched basically August 5th to a small community, and we're sort of building our way out, from there. And the idea is to really build trust at the end of the day. You were talking to, I believe it was Phil from Ashland Leather, about fit anxiety.
Yes.
Right. And there's these tools out there, but I think his comment was like, people don't trust these tools. And I think another quote, which was great, is like, you got to own a crap ton of shoes to really be able to weigh in any significant manner. Right. And those people are sort of few and far between. Right. If you don't know about Dale and Aero Surfer, like it's harder to find all that good information. So, when folks go to a brand's website, I think there's just some amount of hesitancy there. Like, am I really getting trustworthy information? And I think that's why people are prone to going off and checking all these other forums. So the way that we built Grail was really with the focus on this community, right? And making sure that you get to see all the folks that are most relevant to you, who can sort of act as like these size advisors, right? Because they're putting in a lot of effort to make sure that they're commenting on how the leather feels and how things age over time, and unstructured versus structured toes, and like how that affects fit, right? There's all these elements, and the idea is to get all that information to you in as efficient a way as possible, so that you really trust that information, and at the end of the day, like, make the right choice.
Totally. That's so true. It's so crucial, because like you and I were saying yesterday, these are not light investments to make. Like, first off, this is a community of people that are, I do consider this like a gentleman's community, and the people that make it such a wonderful place to be and to participate in and everything. But yeah, the good thing is there are so many people that truly actually want to help, and I think that's why this is such a powerful tool, because these people that you know, they've made the investments and they've made the mistakes. I've made mistakes with sizing. For example, my Viberg size, you know, I was going a half down from Brannick because Viberg themselves, they didn't give much they didn't give much advice on the website. And when I emailed them, this was several years ago, they just said, I said, you know, I wear an 8.5 in the Alden Indy. How should I size on your 2030 last? And they said, I don't know, maybe 8.5, maybe 8. It's hard to say. And that's all they told me. And, you know, and in retrospect, I should have been an 8 this whole time. I think Standard and Strange did a good job. They did a write-up on Viberg, and they basically equate Viberg to UK sizing. So go a full size down from your normal size.
Yeah.
So my dress shoe size is 9. I should have been an 8 in my Vibergs. And, you know, and so I could still wear them. They're a little large, but I've been wearing them for years. I love them. But yeah, I'd be happier in an 8. So that information, like what you're saying, like in terms of trusting the maker, yes, every different maker, if you notice, you go to their website, like Mark Albert, for example, this one pops to my mind because they say, go, I think it was, our boots run large, go a full size down from your sneaker size. Now sneakers, I don't have to tell you this. Sneakers are so precarious in the way that those are sized. First off, you know, they're built on different lasts. Second off, there's so much padding on the inside. You're not going to get a good idea of how to translate a sneaker to an unlined boot at all, because there's foam and there's padding and there's like lining.
And then there's like, you know, with Nikes, for example, like they'll do a mesh version and then they'll do a leather version and then they'll do a whatever else version. And it's like all those feel different on your foot and they're all the same size. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So true. And so I do not like comparing sneaker anything to boots. I don't even let it, typically me, I don't even let it enter the conversation. First off, I only wear sneakers for one reason, that's to run in. And I have 2 pairs of sneakers in size 9. They each fit wildly different from one another. One's a Nike and one's a New Balance, and they're just wildly different. The New Balance is far bigger, but I mean, that's so anecdotal. It's so in the weeds that it isn't even worth mentioning. Yeah, I don't like comparing sneakers at all to boot sizing. It's just, you know, boot sizing is actually somewhat consistent. That's one good thing is these heritage brands, they do use different lasts and different scales for sizing, but within each brand, it is pretty consistent, and going from brand to brand is fairly a consistent process, I'm finding, which is good, unlike the sneaker industry. So.
And well, I mean, I think it helps so much to be able to identify a last type to aid in that search or that recommendation. That's so valuable. And, you know, I think it's probably really hard for someone like a Nike or Adidas to name all their lasts and, you know, put the onus on you to track how all that works. But that's sort of one of the things that we also really wanted to focus on early was, you know, you can get to a fit recommendation faster, right, with that last information, because you don't have to go by style and break it up into these really small pieces across a brand's inventory. So that the lasting is a smart way to break it all down, I think.
Right, it really is. And you know, speaking to that, I have a pair of, hold on, let me grab them. Okay, we talked about these yesterday on the phone. These are my Pigeon Tree crafting boots. This is a collab.
Those are some badass boots, man.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Those are really cool.
Thank you. I still need to do a video on these. This is a pair, when I wear these, strangers stop me and ask me what the hell these are. I've never had a pair of boots that did that, but these bring attention to you, believe me. And what these are, this was a collab through my buddy Isaac from Pigeon Tree Crafting. He runs, he makes belts, and he did a collab through Santalum. And so this is who built these. These are green marbled veg tan boots. And Santalum, I remember talking to them years ago. I was considering getting a pair of their boots, and you talk to them through DM. They don't have like a website that you order from, at least not to my knowledge anymore, or not to this day. They don't. At the time, they definitely didn't. I might be wrong on that, but I talked to them about sizing, and this comes down to the trust thing again. I gave them all my sizing information, and they recommended, of all things, a size 41. and that had me running for the hills. I'm like, never mind. I don't trust that, because I wear a size 42 in UK sizing. And when they said 41, which is a full size down from what I typically wear in Euro sizing, I said, never mind. I'm not even going to take the risk, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to size wrong. And so what's funny is when I ordered these, because of the leather. It's so eye catching. It's a marbled leather. In fact, I don't even consider it marbled. I think it's more painted than anything else.
It's amazing. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, it's wild. And it was developed in-house in their, I think they have a tannery there in Indonesia. So this isn't a leather sourced from Horween or from the US or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I didn't even know what size I was getting when I ordered these. I just Isaac said, be as descriptive as you can in the comments when you place your order, list all your brands and all your sizing. And I did, and I was sure to say, Viberg, I should be an 8 in Viberg. And I didn't even know what size they were sending me, which was kind of cool. I actually liked that, because I just left it up to them, and they sent me the 41s. And it is the right size. And the reason why it's the right size is because every company uses a different scale. And so since their scale is different, their 41 is basically equivalent to what most companies consider a 42. And so turns out they were right all those years ago to recommend a size 41 for me. But hearing that number scared me, because I'm not so familiar with my Euro size, and then to hear a full size off, it really had me running for the hills. So anyways, yeah, every company uses a different scale. And I think once we get all these scales mapped out on your site, that will alleviate so much fit anxiety, so much fit confusion. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this pair, like I said, it fits me great. I still have to do a video on these, describing them, but yeah, I love these. I love these so much.
It's an incredible pair. And I think along those same lines, Dale, like, it sounds like they had to take a good amount of time, and so did you for that matter, to figure out what size you were going to be, right? Like you take the time to send an email with, I don't know how many pairs of shoes and the correlated sizes, and then they have to go through all that information. So that's sort of where we're hoping to add value on the brand side. Is, we've done some research and surveying, and basically found that the customer service reps at these brands are spending anywhere from 20 to 50% of their time answering questions about sizing, which is a lot. And the other important factor there is it's sort of along the same lines as, what you were commenting about this email. But basically people call in or they email and they say, hey, I wear this size and this brand. What am I going to be in whatever, the brand they're shopping for is? And either the customer service rep has to know how to do this calculation in their head, or they're keeping an Excel doc or whatever, but it takes a while. And if you don't have that information as a brand, you got to go look it up. I know in talking with one specific brand, they spend a good amount of time Redditing and going on to Stitch Down or wherever, and actively seeking out this sizing information for brand last that they aren't as familiar with. So being able to sort of have this aggregate information on Grail, and then being able to tap into that as a brand, hopefully will expedite the process. Recommend a customer the right shoe, and even better, avoid the conversation or the email altogether, because that person has the confidence to go out and make the choice based on the recommendation from Grail. And definitely. I think the other thing too is this process is not perfect, and we are certainly not claiming to have the skeleton key here. It's a lot of there's a ton of variables involved, and when you have a customer's preference to also consider, there's a lot that needs to be taken into consideration. And so our goal here is to make it better than it is today. We want to actively work towards getting it as close to perfect as we can, but I think it's important to know that we're going to be wrong, and we just really rely on that feedback from the users to help direct us in the right, on the right path, because that information about what doesn't fit someone is just as valuable as the information about what does. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough one, a tough nut to crack for sure.
Mhm. It's tough because it doesn't just come down to real material items, but it comes down to preference, right? Subjective
Yes.
preference, which is
Yes.
so difficult to navigate. Talking to Wyatt, about sizing, he says he just says, I like the way he phrased it. He said, "There's a lot there." And what I mean by that is, yes, there is
Understatement of the century. Yeah.
understatement of the century. There's a lot there when it comes to sizing. And listening to the recent Stitch Down podcast with Ron Ryder, it was so good because Ron Ryder was really talking about how, yeah, you can take measurements all day, but really so much of the fit determines on your foot's volume, because your foot actually, it's not a fixed appendage, right? It's not like your forearm. It's actually, it's got tons of moving parts inside of it. And because of that, like, I might have the same length foot as, like, say, my buddy Dave, but he actually has very low volume feet. They're very thin and low volume and not a lot of muscle and bony. Whereas my feet, they're pretty wide and they're troll feet. So it's like, our subjective like experience inside each boot is going to be wildly different regardless. Take out width, take out length, forget that. Our volume is different. And so the way that my foot sits inside of a boot is dramatically different from the way his foot sits inside of a boot. Like, we fill it out in just different ways. And so, it's a matter of preference, individual preference, and then your foot's volume. So like Ron Ryder was saying, like, that's why he doesn't like so much to play around with widths, because you increase the width, but what you're really increasing is the amount of volume inside the boot. And so that's like, that plays a huge part in it. And not to mention, the other aspect of it is talking about these unidimensional measurements of your foot. Whenever I go into a sizing store, my whole life up until my mid-20s when I discovered Alden, whenever I've gone into a shop, they size me. They always size me too small. They say, "Oh, you're this on the Brannick," and then I walk out of there, and I don't know what they're trying to do, whether they're trying to impress me with this new size that I never knew I needed to have, or what. I don't know what's going on there, but whether they're trying to override all the past sizing information I've been given up till now, because they have the skeleton key to the sizing issue. It's like, they always size me too small, and then I'm kicking my shoes off all day long. I can't keep them on my foot. And that's where Ron Ryder always recommends, like, sizing generously, letting your foot breathe. And that's what I've been doing. That's been my approach since getting into Goodyear Welt. The thing to understand is, like, and my whole message that I've been trying to communicate is, I feel much better in a pair of footwear that's just a little bit bigger than what most people would recommend. I keep them on all day. I put them on in the morning. I take them off at night. Like, I don't kick them off because I'm so comfortable. I can live in this.
Yeah.
Really. So your individual approach to sizing is also going to play a huge factor. So understanding that's one of those things that's almost impossible to factor in, is your individual preference. So anyways,
absolutely. And I think this sort of information is so important to disseminate, right? Like, if you go out to your friends who aren't shoe fanatics, maybe you don't have any because you don't deal with that riffraff, but
I don't.
But like, and you say to them, what kind of volume is what's the volume of your foot? What would they say? Would they even know what you were talking about?
They'd have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's part of this process too, I think, is getting that incredible experience and knowledge from folks like Ron, and putting it out there so that people can digest it. And I think that's one of the great things that Ben does over at Stitch Down. But we've got to, we've got to spread this information, and we've got to get those folks that really, they know what they're talking about, and they're looking out for your best interests. So education is another really big piece of the puzzle, I think.
I agree. And Ron Ryder says, he says essentially this is almost medical information, because when you're giving people the proper sizing fit, you're not just giving them piece of footwear. You're giving them something that they're going to walk on, and that's going to actually have an impact on their posture, on their balance, on their alignment. Like, so much comes into it, and it really is almost like a medical device when you really want to split hairs and get down to the nitty gritty of it. I think boots really are. And my quality of life has, my life has been affected dramatically, I think, by boots, by good fitting boots. And I think when I found the size that I could finally live in, that's when my quality of life went up. Like, I was no longer kicking my shoes off anymore. That was huge for me, because I'd get into the office and, I'd sit down and, give it about, like, I was comfortable for like the first 45 minutes, but give it an hour and I'm like, oh, I got to kick these things off. Thankfully, they were Clark's slip-on, so I'd kick them off, and I'd hang out barefoot all day at my office. And, that's embarrassing, and nobody wants to do that. So yeah, finding my right size was very paramount in improving my quality of life. And yeah, Ron Ryder, I think he's got a very unique perspective, because he's worked in the industry for so many years. And yeah, Ben, you're right. He does a good job with his podcast and on Stitch Down and everything. And by the way, I have to say, when I heard your voice yesterday for the first time, you and Ben sound so similar, actually. You need to go on his podcast, because hearing your two voices, like the way that you enunciate words and your voices, they just sound so much alike. It's kind of funny. I actually almost thought that it was Ben I was talking to at first, because
oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to go on Ben's podcast. So Ben, if you're listening, just give me a shout out.
Absolutely. I'll link you two up as well, because
actually I know Ben pretty well. He has been helping out with this, and we actually, when we launched on August 5th, we launched to his what do they call it, Stitch Down Plus community or whatever on the Discord.
Yeah.
So those were the first folks to use it, and like, they were insanely valuable in getting both the feedback back to us at Grail, but also just getting in. They have so many pairs of shoes, and so that's just like a lot of who has driven the data at this point is Ben's loyal followers, of which I am one.
Right. Absolutely. That's good. That's good to know. I'm glad you two are linked up already, because yeah, I think you two together will definitely create, like I said, a very good resource for the boot community. Ben's already just done a phenomenal job with it, with the Discord.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And really pulling the community together in a meaningful way, because, this isn't, when you get into nice things, this is just kind of an overall perspective that I've had. When you get into nice things, you kind of assume that you're joining a club. Like my Omega, for example, I've owned this thing since 2009,
I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, that's my Planet Ocean. And
oh, that's beautiful. And I like what do they call that? Milanese mesh strap, right?
Yes.
Big fan.
Thank you. Some people call that chainmail.
Okay.
Yeah, Omega, I think, calls it their shark bite strap. Like, apparently, a shark's tooth is unable to penetrate.
So your wrist is protected.
Yeah. If a shark comes after and bites on my wrist, I'm good.
You're totally fine. Yeah.
Anywhere else, I'm screwed.
But I mean, back to Ben, like, I think in talking with him and just sort of exploring, how he's built his base and his community, again, it comes back to trust. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, Ben is out there to really evangelize all aspects of boot making, fit, brand awareness, all these sorts of things, right? And I think there's a lot of folks out there that are more on the pay to play mm-hmm. side, and are gonna sort of just put information out there based on who's funneling them some cash. My impression is that Ben is not that way, and he really works with people and brands who want to sort of further the cause, and that's something I really appreciate about his approach. Ben's just a great person, obviously.
He really is. And I feel guilty because I didn't subscribe sooner when he got it started. my buddy Dave actually asked me, "Hey, do you subscribe to Stitch Down? It's only $5 a month." And I'm like, "Damn it, I need to get on there." So I did. So I've been a subscriber there for I think about a year and a half now, and yeah, totally worth it. It's never too late to join that group. It's a phenomenal community of people, and just whenever you have a question, you can get such poignant, down to the very, very good insights immediately. People that are, just on my level and above that, because believe it or not, there's people with more boots than I do than I have. Boots, whiskey, cigars. Let's see. There's a lot of people out there that have just so many more boots than I do. Probably maybe double the amount, maybe more, with more brand experience as well. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. I'll have to link you up with some of these people actually.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
But one of the things that I noticed right away when I joined his Discord community was the sizing questions thread. That's
yeah,
like the most active channel on that server.
yes,
And it's just, that's where I sort of got this part of the inspiration. It's like all these people all the time, all day long. Hey, I wear this size currently in this brand. I'm about to go purchase these shoes. I'm dropping $700. Like, I got to make sure I nail this. Right. And if you miss that bit of information as they're talking about it, it's gone sort of forever, right? You're never going to be able to go back and, or like, unless you're made aware of it by someone else, you're never going to know about it. So that's
right.
what we're trying to do at Grail, is sort of capture all that really great info and make it persistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially on Discord, because I talked about style forum, how you could kind of Google and go back like
Hmm.
5, 6, 7 years on style forum to see what was discussed about this particular Alden last and in this particular leather, but on Discord, since it's sort of an exclusive community of, a paid membership, yeah, you're right. Like, it's very difficult you have to scroll up you'd probably have to spend a long time scrolling up to see, like, to get the specific answer you're looking for. So like we talked about before, there's a timeliness to this information that if it's not right now, then it's lost forever. And I think
Yeah.
you can memorialize it all on Grail. So I think that's, again, just a fantastic site. And actually, if you don't mind, why don't we talk about how to find your site? Because I actually, without the link, I couldn't really find it too easily through Google. It's Grayle, Grayle, right?
Yep. .co.
.co. Okay.
Yeah. We
Grayle.co.
could use a little help on the SEO and searchability side. So if there's anyone out there listening who wants to
Yeah.
help out, we're more than happy to have you. Yeah.
Yes.
So basically it's grail.co, and then that takes you to the main webpage, and then you can join it. Like, there's a button that says join us, and that'll take you off to the actual sort of web-based app itself. And we're all web-based at the moment, no Android or iOS app. Hopefully something in the future, but we're working on that. And once you're on the platform, that's app.grail.co, then you're sort of, you're in, and you can register, create a profile, add your shoes, do all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So
Okay.
I apologize for the trouble in finding it. We've got some work to do there, clearly.
Oh yeah, no, it's okay. And so, just for the sake of simplicity, I will leave the link in the description below, so anybody who's interested in it can just click that, start your profile. It's free. This is, like, you designed it to be very, very user friendly. Very, it doesn't just help the users, by the way. It helps the boot manufacturers. I mean, this is going to solve big problems for them, because, like you said, these people spend all day sometimes. And Andrew Spitzko of Parkhurst, I talked to him. That's the most common question. He spends like almost his whole day talking about sizing, and it's like, what if that were just alleviated? What if he could just talk more about, address other things and work on new builds and
Yeah, I mean, and if you're a really small brand, as is the case with some of these, welted shoes that are sort of like the up and comers, they might not even have a customer service rep who handles this. So I don't know if Andrew does this himself, but like, he probably picks up the phone and he's
Mhm.
spending his time, which is worth, I would assume, way more than $20 an hour, which is sort of what the average customer service rep, gets paid.
Yeah.
And he's burning a ton of time talking sizing. And if there was a way to sort of just automate that, I think it would be helpful. So that's what we're after.
Yeah, for sure. Bypass it. Like talking to Wyatt, I don't know if this is up and running yet for Grantstone, but he was talking about his dad, Randy, just loves to talk sizing, and just having a direct line to Randy, like, hey,
I love that.
yeah, just come talk to
Yeah, I
Randy.
love that. I think that's so awesome. Yeah, he has, their line is up and you can chat with Randy. And yeah, so, you know, we did like a little promotion with Grantstone a few weeks ago. And yeah, we're trying to work through our way through this, you know, the brand side of this community and help folks where we can.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And, you know, going back to Mark Albert, actually talking to him, I went back and forth with him for a long time, and his boot last that he uses, I'm pretty sure it's a pretty standard boot last that I think Red Wing uses. And like I said, another thing that kept me from buying any of these, diving headfirst into any of these new brands, is just the kind of like precarious information that they have about sizing on their website. So like, I think the delivery and the pitch that they use a lot of the times is what leads me to like second guess it. You know, like I said, Mark Albert said, go down a full size from your sneaker. Well, I went a half size down, and I actually found that just a half size down from my true to size was actually a little bit smaller than the rest of my boots. I actually believe that the last he's using is more of a true to size last. So, you know, similar to Andrew's Fitzco at Parkhurst, like, yeah, I go down a half size, but actually I'd also be happy with going true to size with my Parkhurst. So for that reason, all my Parkhursts are an 8.5, but I just don't wear them with thick socks, and the fit's really good, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, the Mark Alberts, I believe, are the same way. Whereas I think the Albans are definitely bigger than the Mark Alberts, than the Parkhursts. I think, you know, so comparing these brands is really important. But also the delivery. Actually, I was looking at my buddy Angel. I just showed you these Knicks boots, these swashbucklers, and this is my first pair of Knicks. And here's another example of, you know, just some sizing advice that I find a little bit off-putting. He said that the boot, if boots normally fit you, you're in luck. Knicks will fit a bit large compared to your mass-produced footwear. For a more snug fit, select a half size smaller than your mass-produced shoe size. If you normally wear a 12D, you could order an 11.5D in Knicks to achieve a snug fit. If you'd like a little bit more room in your boots, you can order your normal boot size. So my normal boot size is 8.5, and I ordered these in an 8.5, and I can tell you there's no way in heck I could have gone true to size in these. These are big. So you know, comparing the Knicks boots to like a mass-produced shoe, it's kind of vague. And you know, I think again, like I could have also maybe gone down a full size in these. I'm not sure, but yeah, definitely the half size down for me at least was the way to go. Going true to size for a more generous fit, I probably wouldn't have recommended that. But you know, that's just another example of sizing advice that's kind of confusing, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, what would be so valuable then is you go on Grail, you enter your review, and anyone who sort of matches your similar size, right? You're going to be the first hit that they see as they're looking at this boot. And then they get your review and they're like, oh, okay. So, you know, I've got a similar foot to Dale and he's giving me this information. Like, that's going to help me make my choice. Right.
sure.
And just propagating that, it's such valuable information to capture.
Right.
And there's nowhere today that gets you that.
That's true. And I think the more people that use it, the better it will become over time. So
yes, got to get as many people on there as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage everybody listening, get on there, like start because, you know, I think you're going to help people not just today, but 10 years from now. There's going to be people that are saving money and investing well in their boots with the right sizing information. It's going to save a lot of money. There's no downside to this. Like this is going to help you make your investments wiser into these boots. You know, they are expensive. People get neurotic about it because they're expensive, but they're just the most amazing things when you get the sizing right, and they really improve the quality of your life. So I think you're on the right track, my friend.
I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's get as many people out there as possible. Again, it's free for, for anybody that wants to use it. Get on there, start putting in your sizing information, and help out your fellow boot collectors, for the love of God.
And the other thing too, I'll just add in quickly, is like, we want as much feedback too as we can get. We've got a lot of room to grow and a lot of features to implement, and that's really what will make this a product for the boot community, is hearing back from everyone. So as much as we like to hear it's great and all those sort of positive bits of feedback that give you a little bit of an ego boost, the most important thing is the critical feedback and hearing how we can better meet your needs. So we have an email address as well, info@grailtechnologies.com, and I get that directly, and we want to hear it, so let us have it.
Sounds good. I will also leave that in the description below, and let's hope that we can build up something really good together. So
yeah, absolutely. Curious to know, I got a question for you, Dale. You showed me your watch. Are you into sort of that scene as well, into the watches and even, I don't know, other related things like raw denim and leather jackets and all that sort of fun stuff?
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually got my start with watches. Before I was into anything nice, I was into watches. And so I bought 5 pretty nice watches. I have 3 Omegas, 1 Tag, and 1 Panerai. The Panerai I do wear probably the most, but yeah, I was a bit of a watch aficionado. I was I'd subscribed to those like $15 magazines talking all about Swiss watches.
Yeah.
So
you must be a fan of Hodinkee and of Waco and Revolution and all that sort of thing.
Yes, I am. I haven't looked at it so much recently, just because I kind of decided years ago, like, now my watch collection is good at 5. I can't keep up a watch collection if I'm gonna be into boots. Like, I just can't. So
yeah, you got to just pick and choose, right?
I had to pick and choose, and I had to make a strategic decision. These will last me my life. Like I said, this is 12 years. I've had this 12 years. Looks still brand new.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful investment. And this is actually the Planet Ocean. This is what James Bond wore, Daniel Craig wore in Casino Royale. He wore the black bezel version. I had to be different, so I got the orange. But
nice.
Yeah.
I'm a rookie in this space. Like, I picked up sort of my first this Seiko.
Okay.
That I found is just like a really great, like, bulletproof watch. But I feel like this is sort of the gateway drug,
Yes.
And I'm going down this rat hole now. So I've got boots to worry about. I've also dabbled a little bit in the raw denim, which is another interesting, sort of fit related issue. You've got like the raw stuff and the sanforized versus the unsanforized, and how much is stuff going to shrink. And so looking forward, we're also sort of thinking about how we can help solve these sort of adjacent verticals to boots, right? But all these other things that these enthusiasts are into.
Definitely. And we talked about this yesterday, how the raw denim thing. Yeah, I'm also kind of into it. I think it's maybe a little overblown. Just, I keep probably about 3-4 pairs of like premium raw denim in my collection, but I'm not looking to have like 50 pairs of it. You know what I mean? It's, to me, from my perspective, this might sound a little, I don't know, contradictive to everything else, especially contradictive to my approach to boots. But I feel like the denim is just sort of, it's all kind of the same thing. There's neffiness, there's slubbiness, there's thickness, there's weft, there's weave, there's sanforized, unsanforized, there's stretch, there's all this stuff, but really it's kind of all the same thing, really. In a broad sense. And so, but one thing that the denim world has going for it, like sites like Blue Owl and Context Clothing, is every batch they get, because they don't do vanity sizing, unlike J. Crew, Abercrombie, all these, Men's Warehouse, what's the other one, Brooks Brothers. any standardized brand that we deal with these days uses vanity sizing, which in other words, if you wear a size 32, guess what? You don't have a 30 size 2 inch waist. You have probably a
Yeah.
34.5 inch waist. The vanity sizing is something that was adopted by our modern fashion industry to make us all feel skinnier than we actually are. But the Japanese don't do that, and so I wear a size 32 waist vanity size pants, but guess what? You buy a size 32-inch waist Japanese denim from Japan, no, you're not even able to. You can't even get the fly closed because it's actually 32 inches. So what they do to remedy that is they take every batch from Momotaro, from Blue Owl, or sorry, from Japan Blue, from all these brands, and they hand measure each batch, and they put that information on the website. So on Context Clothing, you click, you have to measure your own denim, and then you can see the dimensions of what they're selling. So, I typically buy like a 33 or a 34 in Japanese denim. And and that's what I think the denim industry does right, is they measure each batch, because there's so much inconsistency from even within the same brand and the same model from batch to batch. Every batch is different because it's a precarious process, and it's not like highly regulated. So measuring it by batch is by far the most effective way. And I think, why don't boot brands do that? Why don't they all talk to each other and say, hey, my 8.5 is this many inches long, this many inches wide, and then why don't they do that with boots? So I think that's another reason why you're actually going to provide a very good solution to the boot industry writ large, because they don't do that. They don't provide measurements, which would really help actually when you think about it. So anyways, that's
yeah. But I think to your point about the vanity sizing, I mean, I think that there's a certain marketing element to that, and it certainly exists in the more like the much bigger brands, like the Gucci's and the Louis Vuittons or whatever Prada's. Like, they want you to feel like you got, I mean, at least for women, a smaller foot, right? And that's worth a lot to those consumers. And so there's monetary motivation to make the consumers feel good, right? Which is, it's a tough one to overcome.
For sure. Vanity is involved in so much of this. So people want to be smaller than they are, and
without a doubt.
Yeah, it's so true. It is so true. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think you're on the right track though for solving a big problem. Ben's done a couple sizing podcasts, and I eat those ones up especially because it's like, and me and my buddy Dave, we came up with the term fit anxiety, because I think it's a real thing in our community, is an anxiety around it.
Yeah, it sure is for me. Like, I've been eyeing some Vibergs for such a long time, and I just haven't pulled the trigger because I'm just not quite sure yet. And with e-commerce and digitally native brands, I mean, Grant Stone's a great example, right? Like, you can't go try those suckers on anywhere in a store. So you got to really nail that fit recommendation online.
Definitely. Well, actually, so you have somewhat of a boot collection yourself. Like, what's your best fitting boot, would you say?
That's a good question. I'm sort of a rookie in this space. I'm still building up my collection, and I'm not at your level yet, Dale, but someday I aspire to be.
Oh yes, you will. You'll get there.
So yeah, so I've got probably two that I really like, but I think the number one boot that I've got that I really enjoy wearing, I spent a lot of time walking trade show floors with Amazon, and you're like, 12-hour days, and you're walking all over the place. And I wore just a pair of RM Williams Comfort Craftsman boots.
Okay.
And man, those things are money. I like the comfy sole, and the yearling leather that stretches, really hugs your foot. I find those to be extremely comfortable, stylish, like go well with a lot of different kinds of things. They were created as like a work boot, right? And sort of evolved into this more of a fashion statement. But I like that they've more or less stayed true to their roots, and they just built a really good quality pair of boots that are going to last a long time. Yeah, so I've had those maybe I don't know, 7 years or so, and
Okay.
they're still going strong. Yeah, and I've got a couple others. I've got a pair of Alden Chukka boots in a Plaza Last that I got from Leather Soul, which are great. Got a pair of Red Wing mock toe boots that are great for, I used to ride a motorcycle, so I'd wear those, and they're
Okay.
great for doing any sort of like more labor intensive tasks
Yeah.
around the house. But yeah, I really want to try and get into to more, I guess, is just the overall sentiment.
Yeah. I hear you.
Because
I hear you.
I've got a lot to learn, and I rely so much on folks like you to help guide me.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what's your Red Wing mock toe size? What size are you wearing there?
11 and a half.
Okay, and how do they fit? Are they a little snug? Or are they a little generous? Or
I would say they're, if I had to pick, they're I think slightly on the snugger side. And
okay,
I think, again, being a rookie here, like I think I've always worn my shoes just a bit on the tighter side, because I thought that's, for whatever reason, like the way it was supposed to work. And maybe that's just by virtue of like going in and getting fitted by the folks at Nordstrom or whatever, but that started this trend. And
right.
so, I've always sized boots now, especially ones that are like good quality leather, expecting them to stretch out a little bit. So I think for me, actually playing around with something a little bit wider would be beneficial. So
Okay.
this is, even in talking with you and in Ben, like with Ben, it's sort of this journey, right, where you're making little tweaks along the way and figuring out what the ideal sort of thing is, and there's so much to take into consideration.
There is.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing.
So that's sort of where I'm at.
Okay. Well, one thing that I've been doing with my sizing is, instead of like being so straightforward about it, like, oh, this, if you wear this in a Red Wing Iron Ranger, then take this in a 2030. I actually like to ask, what's some of your best fitting boots and how do you fit? And then I like to then say, still put the choice on you. I like to say, well, so in this case, if you're Red Wing mock toe, you like the fit, it's a little snug, I would say, well, here's what I would tell you. If you want to keep that snugness, then in Viberg, take an 11D, say on their 2030. I would say, if you want it to
Yep.
fit the same way, if you like it to fit the same way, I would say take an 11D. If you want a little bit more room to be able to wear your Vibergs with some thicker socks, I would say keep 11D, because the Vibergs will be larger than the Red Wings, I would say, for sure. So I always ask the consumer, like, what size is it that you're wearing? And then B, how would you like your Vibergs to fit? Would you like them to be snug?
Mm-hmm.
Would you like a little extra room? And then I kind of give you two options. Like, you could do two things. You could keep the same size in your Red Wings, or you can go down. I personally should have gone down in my Vibergs. They're bigger. They're just bigger in 8.5 than all my other 8.5 boots. So, moving forward, if I buy more Vibergs, they'll be in size 8. And so that's kind of how I do it personally. I kind of ask how you would not. I don't tell you how to size. I typically like to ask the person their preference. Would you like to be more generous, or would you like to keep it the same, or would you like to be smaller? That's kind of where I ask, because giving
Yeah.
equivalents isn't always the best. It isn't always as useful, I've found, than asking preferences. So
That makes sense. And one of the things that we actually are trying to implement now is sort of incorporating a bit of that preference into the review of your shoes. So right now it's just tell us about the best fitting pair of shoes.
mhm.
But a lot of the feedback, which has been really valuable, that we've gotten is like, okay, first and foremost, like, do you think the fit is perfect? Do you think the fit is acceptable? Or do you think it's poor? And then you've
Okay.
got 4 quadrants, right? And along the x-axis, you've got it's too long, it's too short. And on the y, you've got it's too wide, it's too narrow. And you've got the concentric circles going from perfect out to acceptable out to poor. And you sort of plot on in whatever quadrant makes the most sense. Like, oh yeah, this is a little bit wide, and a little bit long, but I'm still in the perfect circle. So we get a sense then for, oh, you like to wear your shoes this way. Or it's maybe, you know, a little short and a little wide, or whatever the case may be. But being able to capture much more detail about how something fits you, and using that, of course, then to drive the algorithm and figure out what's going to be best for you moving forward.
Definitely. That's brilliant. That is so brilliant. That's really what needs to happen, because so much of, I think so much as consumers, we're sort of cemented in this idea of, oh, I'm an 8.5 True Balance. Okay, well, without remembering, like, if you could change your size, which we could all size a little differently. We could size a half size, sometimes smaller, which in my True Balance, I could size a half size smaller. I could go down to an 8 in True Balance. It'd be fine. I could just wear it with thinner socks and I could still wear them. You know, we're not, one thing to keep in mind as consumers is we're not so cemented and blocked in to a size. Like, you know, I think everybody on this planet could fluctuate a half size up or down, you know, just depending. And like you said, your Red Wings are a little snug. Well, you could go up a half size and then you could wear it with thicker socks. So, you know, and another thing, another huge element that I'm learning is the type of leather that you're working with. So for example, Chrome XL, they shrink it down by 30% at the factory. So Horween's actually taking a 30% price cut on those Chrome XL boots. But what they do is they do stretch. They start out, they shrink them down by 30%. So as you wear them, they will stretch out a little bit. But then, you know, when they dry out, they sort of snap back down to where they were originally. And if you really wear them hard over time, they will remain kind of stretched out over time. Contrast that with something else like shell. Okay, so shell does not stretch. And so when they stretch it over when they're lasting it, I noticed that some of my shell footwear, when I get it, seems larger. And I think, wow, you know, what's going on here? Why does it seem to fit larger? Is it that the shell's thinner? No, it's that when they pull it over the last and they remove the last, it doesn't shrink back down at all. It stays the same shape. So when you pull the last out of a Chrome XL pair of boots, it's going to shrink down a little bit. And so that's why the leather itself also has an impact on how it fits. So has the leather stretched at all, or does it not stretch? So, you know, a lot of my shell boots fit a little bit more generously than my Chrome XL boots, which is counterintuitive. You think, oh, well, the shell doesn't stretch, so you want to maybe size larger with shell. No, actually, it's actually the opposite. Maybe you want to size down with shell in some cases. I could have sized down a little bit on some of my shell boots. So yeah, that's
again, this is the information that you have to capture, right? And one of the things that I think that Reddit does that's cool is they do like their initial impressions for the boot or the shoe, and then they give you a 6-month update, a 5-year update, whatever. And again, like, you need to be able to track those updates and look at that when you're making your decision, because you get a boot and you're like, oh, you know, this is Chrome XL, it feels too tight. I think Phil, again, from Ashland Leather, was telling a story about a Viberg pair of boots that he got. And for the first 3 months, it was like the most uncomfortable pair of shoes he's owned. Yeah. And then after 3 months, he was like, this is the best pair of boots that I have owned. So you have to be able to pass that information to people, because they're gonna return the boot. They're gonna be ruined on Viberg forever. I don't know, if they don't have that context.
That's very true. That is so true. And yet, you know, Viberg doesn't want to lose customers over that, you know, and that sucks. And and one thing about that is that's the other thing about these is you can't return these things. There's so many things involved with the return process. You know, Ron Ryder was even talking about this, that the manufacturer can't even afford to ship out boots and to accept returns, even if they're unworn, because it cuts too much into their margin, and they're already not making a ton of money making boots. So in essence, sometimes it's just that first pair is kind of a trial run. You know what I mean? You kind of have to just send the person the boots, and if you know, if they're unworn, you could ship them back and then exchange them for a different size. But sometimes it's just that trial run is, you know, your first pair with a brand has to almost be a trial run, because of it's just so damn expensive to ship these things.
It really is. Yeah, they're heavy and they cost a lot to ship. Absolutely. But if you're a brand that's only, that's doing 6,000 pair a year,
Yeah.
like it's detrimental if you're getting tons of returns
Oh yeah.
because, people don't have all the information that they need.
Yeah.
So
It would
I
ruin.
hope we can help in that regard.
Yeah, it could ruin a brand if they're spending all this money on shipping these things around. I mean, they kind of have to get it right way more times than not. Make these transactions go right. Otherwise, yeah, they could seriously, it could be a detriment to their business overall. So it's important for the consumers, obviously, to be happy. It's also incredibly crucially important for the businesses themselves. They don't want to lose customers over sizing. I don't think they sincerely, they want to get people into the right size. They're not trying to screw people over by, not getting them the right size and just making them keep the boot. No, they want this information to be accurate so that everybody's happy. So,
Yeah.
again, just another reason why I think what you're doing is such a wonderful thing. So, again, I think I encourage anybody to get on there, because you're not just helping the boot manufacturers, you're helping your fellow boot collectors and your enthusiasts, and even the people that aren't like super high level enthusiasts like me. Like, you're helping the guy that for the first time he wants to get a pair of nice boots and just has no clue and hasn't devoted hundreds and thousands of hours to researching this, and frankly probably doesn't want to. So
Right.
if you can get somebody a good answer really quickly, like within 5 minutes, then you just help that person tremendously. So
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, even within the community too, you've got I mentioned this gateway drug earlier. Like, I don't know if I'm characterizing this correctly. So apologies if I'm not, but like, you've got your Thursday boot or your Red Wing, right?
Mhm.
And that's sort of where you start. And then what gets someone to a Viberg, and then in turn gets someone to, what's the one I'm thinking? Well, John Lofgren, and then Clutch Cafe carries them, and their name is escaping me. Anyway,
John Lofgren.
Brass something?
Brass Tokyo?
Yeah.
Okay.
That might be it. Anyway, so you're leveling up, basically spending more and more money, but you're gonna drop $2,000 now on a pair of boots. Like, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
So at every stage, there's something at risk there.
Yes, there really is. And that's a price threshold that I am just so scared to cross into. The Flame Panda, the Brass Tokyo, the Roll Club, Brian the Bootmaker. Yeah, these people, I mean, the small batch people that are doing it, 100% custom made to order. That's what I like about the Indonesian brands is they do that for a far lower price. But still, it's like if you size wrong with any of this, it's like, well, what's the return process? What's the exchange? How long am I looking to wait? I'm waiting. I'm looking at a 7-8 month wait. And even I heard Brian the Bootmaker, I hear his current wait time at the Roll Club, it's like 2 years currently, maybe.
Yeah, I think I checked out his website and it's like 2 years right now, which is crazy.
That sizing information is going to be very invaluable. Anybody who has experience with that definitely needs to get on your site. I mean, because again, like, I have a lot of boots, but I actually mostly collect Grant Stone, Truman, Alden, some Viberg. But ultimately, it's like, yeah, I have a lot of boots, but I have more experience with the leather than I would say with the various brands. Some consumers, they want to try many brands, and I think that's a great thing. My strategy has been find a brand, find a size that you like, and then continue, and then buy more of that because it works. Whereas for me personally, I'm putting my own money into this, and I always have anxiety trying out a new brand. It stresses me out really because if I size wrong, well, that sucks. I could have gotten it.
And that can sort of sour you on a brand to some extent. And it's not necessarily the brand's fault. It's just like, it's just sort of bad luck. but it has a lasting impact on how you perceive your relationship with that brand.
Yeah, that too. And some brands, you know, are totally worthy of your money. It's just, you don't want to make that mistake early on. And, you know, that's why I have so many Grant Stones. It's like, I know the way I like it to fit. And when I see Grant Stone run something, I'm much more apt to get their version of it than Viberg's, because I've had much better sizing advice with much better sizing luck with Grant Stone. And same with Truman. You know, I've sized wrong a couple times with Truman, and I figured out, you know, my ideal fit and size with them. And now when I see them running something, it's like, if I want it, I grab it, because I know it's going to be right. There's no price or there's no fit anxiety, no hesitation there, because I know I'm getting the thing that's going to fit me. So yeah, it's kind of like that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's why I think you know, your site will enable an addict like myself to try more brands.
Well, I'm glad we can enable you.
Yes, absolutely. High level meta enabling here is happening.
That's right. That's what we're all about here at Grail, is enablement.
Absolutely. Boot enablers. I love it. And I'm excited to see what you'll do with other things like denim, jackets, because this is all interlinked and interconnected. So
yeah, I bought a shot jacket a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I honestly think I got the wrong size.
Okay.
And I just, you know, it's a whole nother ball of wax.
Discussion. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, we could go on and on about that. Well, when you're ready to talk jackets, my friend, and get those going on Grail, I will be the first one in line to help you with that. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, let's get the shoe thing under wraps as best we can, and then we'll step out.
Yeah, then we can progress into jackets and denim and other stuff.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Agreed.
I look forward to it, though.
Yes, totally. Well, man, that's all I had for today. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of your website and any other information you'd like to drop before we wrap it all up?
No, I mean, I think we covered it all. This has been absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with someone who knows as much as you do. So thanks for having me on.
Oh man, it's been my sincere honor and pleasure. And yeah, I can't wait to get this thing uploaded and get people's thoughts and get more exposure onto your site, because, you know, if you're following me, if you're on my YouTube channel, then you're already qualified to get onto Grail and to start giving input and helping your fellow man, your fellow boot collector, your fellow enthusiast. So again, I encourage everybody to get on there and start plugging in some data and get this thing to where it needs to be. So again, man, thanks so much. I'm so happy to have, you know, been introduced to you and get the lowdown on what you're doing. And I really look forward to see where it goes. So,
well, thank you very much. The feeling is mutual, and yeah, thank you for your help.
Absolutely. Anytime, my man. It's my pleasure. All right, man. Well, yes, take care, and we will talk again soon.
You as well.
Thank you, sir.